Princess Diana's life begins like a soft light flickering at the edge of a long, quiet night, a presence that feels gentle from the very first moment you let her story unfold inside you. There is something almost fragile in the way her name moves through memory, as if her legacy exists not only in history, but in the delicate spaces of the heart where compassion, empathy, and longing for belonging quietly live. Her story does not begin with royalty or crowns. It begins with a young girl who learned early what it meant to feel deeply, to observe the world with quiet eyes, and to carry a tenderness that would one day change the world. Imagine her first years as if the world around her is washed in soft morning light. Long hallways filled with dust motes, tall windows letting in the pale glow of English skies, and the distant echoes of footsteps in a family estate that felt too large for the heart of a gentle child. Diana often wandered through those silent rooms, her steps small, her breathing light, listening to the soft creaks of old floorboards, sounds that felt like whispers from a house that held both beauty and loneliness. Even then, she carried a sensitivity in her gaze, the kind that made her notice everything others overlooked. The quiver in someone's voice, the sadness tucked behind a smile, the quiet longing in someone sitting alone. As she grew, the world around her grew heavier. She felt emotions intensely, as though every joy glimmered brighter and every sadness sank deeper. But she also learned to hide those feelings behind a soft, gentle expression that made others feel safe in her presence. People were drawn to her, not because she demanded attention, but because she offered something rare, an unspoken warmth, an understanding that came without judgment. She moved through her younger years like a soft melody humming inside a vast, echoing room. When she stepped into the public eye, becoming part of a story far bigger than herself, it was as though a quiet flame had been placed suddenly beneath the glare of 1,000 spotlights. The world saw grace, beauty, innocence, but Diana felt the pressure of expectation begin to wrap tightly around her shoulders. Still, she smiled. She learned. She adapted. She carried on, not because she was prepared for royalty, but because she had always carried love like a steady pulse inside her chest. Even as she entered the royal world, vast halls, formal greetings, endless eyes watching her every movement, there remained a softness in her steps, a gentleness in the way she touched hands, a sincerity in the way she listened. Her presence, even in her earliest days as a princess, felt like warm light spilling into a cold palace. The public could sense it immediately. There was something in her that felt familiar, human, real, something that reminded people of the tenderness they longed for in their own lives. Diana began to embody the quiet hope of millions. She moved through charity wards, children's hospitals, and humble homes with the same presence she once carried as a young girl walking alone through the silence of her childhood estate, observant, empathetic, deeply connected to the invisible emotions of others. When she knelt beside a child in pain, her eyes softened with genuine compassion. When she held someone's hand, the touch was not ceremonial. It was sincere, grounding, human. She made strangers feel seen. She made the world feel smaller, kinder. But inside, beneath the polished photographs and the carefully arranged appearances, she carried storms that shaped her, quietly, Privately, there were days when the palace walls felt too high, too cold, too distant from the warmth she craved. She often found herself standing near tall windows, looking out over the vast gardens, feeling both admiration for the beauty before her and a longing for a simpler life where she could breathe without pressure. Even in moments of glamour, a subtle ache followed her like a faint shadow beneath candlelight. Yet, through every challenge, her compassion never dimmed. It remained a steady flame inside her, guiding her through the complexities of royal life, through the weight of responsibility, through the ache of loneliness. She poured love into her sons, teaching them through gentle moments, bedtime stories whispered softly, hugs held long enough to make them feel safe, eyes filled with the kind of affection that expected nothing in return. To them, she was not a princess. She was their mother, their comfort, their safe place. And as her public life continued to expand, the world watched her with an affection few figures in history have ever received. Not because she was perfect or royal, but because she was human, in a place where humanity often became hidden behind protocol. Her authenticity became her crown, her compassion became her reign, and her vulnerability became the silent language through which the world connected with her. Her story unfolds like a soft wave, sometimes rising with hope, sometimes breaking with heartache, always returning with tenderness. And as you listen now, lying in the quiet stillness of your own night, you can almost feel her presence drifting through the room, warm, calming, luminous, a quiet reminder that gentleness can shape the world in ways power never could. The soft glow of morning light filtered through the tall windows of the palace, casting delicate patterns across the marble floors as Diana began to move through the early chapters of her young life. Even in those distant days before the world knew her name, there was something quietly luminous about her, something gentle that lingered in every room she entered. She walked with a softness that made people instinctively lower their voices, as though afraid to break the fragile calm she carried within her. Her childhood was shaped by long hallways and expansive gardens, places where she often wandered alone, pausing to listen to the rustle of leaves or the faint whistle of wind brushing across the fields. She found peace in the quiet, in moments when the world seemed far away, and the only sound was her own steady breathing, mingling with the soft pulse of nature. Those early years taught her something she carried for life, that comfort lived not in grandeur, but in presence, in kindness, in small, gentle gestures. As she grew, the world around her sensed her softness long before she understood it herself. People gravitated toward her naturally, drawn into the warmth of her shy smile, into the sincerity in her eyes. She had a way of listening, truly listening, as if nothing else existed in that moment but the person speaking. Even before she stepped into the public eye, she carried a rare ability to make others feel seen, heard, understood. It was a gift she did not cultivate for attention. It simply lived within her, quiet light that never dimmed. There were evenings when she would sit by her bedroom window, watching dusk settle over the gardens. The sky would fade from gold to rose to deep, soft blue, and she felt a longing she couldn't name, a sense that life held something vast and emotional, waiting just beyond reach. She didn't know then that her path would soon intertwine with a destiny larger than anything she imagined. She only knew that there was more to life than silence, more than expectation, more than the carefully shaped world into which she had been born. When she first stepped into adulthood, she carried both innocence and quiet strength. The world around her began to change in ways she did not expect. People watched her more closely. They noticed the tenderness in the way she spoke, the humility in her posture, the kindness in her gestures. She was not trying to be extraordinary. She simply lived with honesty, something so rare that the world couldn't help but turn toward her. As her life connected with the royal family, new chapters unfolded with a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. The world would soon know her name, her face, her grace. Cameras would follow her steps. Crowds would gather at the sound of her voice. But in these early days, these soft, unfolding moments, she was still just Diana, a young woman learning to navigate a world much louder and brighter than the one she had known. And yet, even in the midst of change, her heart remained anchored in gentleness. She found comfort in small things, in the laughter of children, in quiet walks beneath blooming trees, in handwritten notes exchanged with friends, in moments when she could simply be herself without the weight of expectation pressing down. These were the spaces where she breathed fully, where she remembered who she was beneath the rising tide of attention. Little by little, the world opened its doors to her. People were captivated not by perfection, but by her honesty, her emotion, her vulnerability. She carried joy and sorrow openly, never hiding the depth with which she felt the world. And in doing so, she allowed millions to feel alongside her, to see themselves in her expressions, her struggles, her hopes. She did not yet know what she would become: a symbol, a mother, a voice for the unheard, a fragile yet powerful force of compassion. All she knew was that life was shifting around her, gently and irreversibly. And through it all, she carried the same quiet softness she had known since childhood, moving through changing landscapes with the grace of someone who understood, even then, that the heart's quiet truths were far more important than anything the world could demand of her. As the gentle hours of her young adulthood unfolded, Diana moved through life with these soft, uncertain steps of someone still learning where she belonged. She was quiet, observant, and naturally drawn to the emotions of others. Even in her teenage years, she had a way of noticing things people tried to hide: the sadness behind a smile, the loneliness tucked behind polite words. It was as if her heart listened more carefully than her ears ever could. And though she often felt invisible in her own family's grand corridors, something tender glowed inside her, a quiet hope she carried everywhere she went. She worked simple jobs then, helping at a kindergarten, tidying classrooms, comforting children who clung to her legs with tearful faces. Her touch was warm, her voice soft, and the little ones adored her instantly. She found peace in their innocence, in their tiny hands reaching for hers, in the gentle chaos of toys scattered on colorful rugs. Those moments made her feel needed, seen in a way that felt real. The world outside could be cold and complicated, but here, among giggles and crayons, she felt safe. Life began to shift in subtle ways: invitations, gatherings, moments brushed with a quiet destiny. She moved with a gentle grace, unaware that countless eyes would soon be fixed on her. Her kindness, once unnoticed in the background of her family's estate, began to shine like a small lantern in a darkened hall. People felt drawn to her, not because she wanted attention, but because she carried a softness so rare it felt like a blessing. The whispers of a new chapter began circling around her, a path she had not chosen, yet one that seemed to reach for her with gentle but unstoppable force. She didn't know then that her life was already shifting, quietly, slowly, toward a future that would place her under a global spotlight, a future that would ask her to give parts of herself she didn't yet know how to protect. But in these early days, Diana still breathed freely. She still walked through life unnoticed. She still dreamed softly, imagining love, imagining purpose, imagining a world where she could make a difference, not through power, but through tenderness. She didn't know it yet, but millions of hearts were waiting for her. When her world finally brushed against the orbit of royalty, it happened not with thunder, but with the quiet inevitability of a tide rising along the shore. She was still young, barely stepping out of adolescence, when she first found herself face to face with a future that felt too vast, too heavy, too unreal. Yet she met it with the same softness she carried since childhood, a gentleness that made people lean closer, wanting to understand the quiet magic she seemed to hold without effort. The first conversations were simple, polite, almost shy. She lowered her gaze often, her cheeks warming with a blush she couldn't hide. There was innocence in her posture, not naivety, but a kind of hopeful sincerity the world rarely offers to royalty. And as her presence became more familiar, something in the air shifted. People noticed her kindness, her humility, her ability to make even the quietest person feel seen. But with attention came pressure, expectations, a world that watched her every step, every gesture, every breath. She felt it growing around her, like ivy, wrapping softly at first, then tightening in ways she didn't know how to escape. Yet she carried herself with grace, offering warmth where others offered distance, offering compassion where protocols demanded silence. She moved through palaces the way someone moves through a dream, slowly, carefully, unsure if she belonged, but hoping to find a place where her heart could still breathe. There were rooms filled with history, hallways lined with portraits of ancestors, eyes staring down from gilded frames. She walked among them quietly, feeling the weight of what it meant to be chosen, to be seen, to be expected, to shine. Still within her, the same softness lived, the softness that comforted children, the softness that listened more than it spoke, the softness that wanted, above all else, to love and be loved without conditions. She didn't yet understand how the world would cling to her, how it would adore her, how it would misunderstand her, but she stepped forward anyway, guided by a heart that refused to harden. And the world was beginning to notice her glow, a glow she didn't create for attention, but one that came naturally, like moonlight on quiet water, gentle, effortless, unforgettable. And as the years moved forward, she found herself woven into the quiet corners of people's lives in ways she never fully understood. Even as her days became heavier and more complex, there was a softness in her that refused to dim. She had a way of sitting beside someone, whether a friend, a stranger, or a child, and making them feel as though the world had paused just for them. The attention she gave was not loud or dramatic. It was gentle, focused, tender, almost like the glow of a small flame in a dark room. It warmed without overwhelming. It reassured without asking anything in return. Her kindness became its own language, one that didn't need words to be understood. People felt it when she reached out her hand to someone overlooked. They felt it in the softness of her voice when she greeted someone shy. They felt it in her eyes when she listened carefully, as though each person's story held a piece of the world she wanted to protect. In those moments, she was not a figure of royalty, but a human being offering warmth in places that had grown cold. As her life grew more complicated, the weight she carried only seemed to make her compassion deeper. She moved quietly through hospitals, late at night, her steps soft against the floor, pausing beside beds where children breathed with difficulty. She held their hands without fear, brushing her thumb gently over small fingers as machines hummed in the background. Nurses watched her with quiet admiration, sensing the sincerity in every movement she made. It wasn't a performance, it was instinct, a quiet, unwavering desire to ease suffering wherever she found it. Sometimes, after leaving a hospital or shelter, she would sit alone in her car for a few minutes before the engine started. The world outside felt loud, relentless, waiting for her to step back into its harsh light. But in those short, private moments, she allowed herself to breathe. Her shoulders lowered, her pulse slowed. She would lean her head against the cool window pane, letting the silence settle around her. The glass fogged slightly with each exhale, like small clouds rising and fading. It was the only time she felt invisible, and sometimes that invisibility felt like a gift. Her public life was bright, but her inner world was dimly lit and quiet, a place where she carried memories, hopes, and questions she rarely shared. She often wondered whether she was doing enough, whether she was shaping light or simply chasing shadows. Yet the people who crossed her path felt the impact of her presence long after she walked away. For them, she became a reminder that gentleness is not weakness, and empathy is not something that fades with time. She began to travel more, driven by a growing desire to step beyond the traditional boundaries of her role. In distant communities, she sat on the ground beside women who had lost almost everything. She held the hands of those who had been left behind, their palms rough from labor and hardship. She laughed with children who didn't know her name, but recognized her heart within minutes. Her knees grew dirty, her hair blew wildly in unfamiliar winds, and she felt, for the first time, free, not from responsibility, but from limitation. She found pieces of herself in every place she visited, in the shy smile of a young girl who had never owned a pair of shoes, in the determined gaze of a mother walking miles each day to bring her child water, in the trembling voice of someone who had lost hope and found it again because she simply sat and listened. These moments shaped her more than any lesson she had been taught in the halls of palaces. They awakened a fire in her, not a burning flame, but a steady, glowing ember that pushed her to reach farther, care deeper, love wider. And yet, despite all she gave, she often felt the weight of loneliness pressing softly on her chest, never harsh, but persistent, like a quiet ache that never fully healed. In the late hours of the night, she would walk through dim hallways, her footsteps echoing softly against marble floors. She would pause by windows where moonlight reflected on cold glass. She would wrap her arms around herself, not out of fear, but out of longing, for understanding, for gentleness, for a place where she could simply exist without being everything to everyone. Still, she kept moving. Still, she kept giving. Still, she kept loving. Her story became a balance between immense visibility and profound solitude, between public expectation and private truth. And through it all, she held on to that quiet, luminous core of compassion that had followed her from girlhood into the turbulent years of adulthood. It was the part of her that never changed, no matter how fiercely the world pulled at her. As the gentle path of her life continues to unfold beneath the soft glow of memory, imagine her walking through a quiet garden at dusk, where the air is cool and fragrant, and every step she takes seems to fall into harmony with the rhythm of the evening. The world around her slowly dims, easing itself into twilight, and the calm that settles over the garden mirrors the way peace had begun to settle inside her during those tender years of rediscovery. After the storms that had once shaken her so deeply, she had found herself returning again and again to spaces where silence could speak to her, where the wind could carry reminders that healing, though slow, was always possible. Her days were filled not with ceremony or spotlight, but with the gentle, steady work of kindness. Hospitals, children's wards, refugee centers, any place where sorrow collected, she felt drawn to it, not out of obligation, but because empathy lived in her, like a soft fire that never dimmed. People who met her often said that she listened in a way no one else did, as if the entire world quieted so she could focus her heart fully on the person before her. She had a way of holding someone's hand that made suffering feel less lonely, a way of leaning in just slightly that made strangers feel understood. And though each day carried new challenges, she met them with the same steady warmth, the same softness that had defined her even in childhood. In quiet moments, when she finally allowed herself to rest, she would sit in rooms filled with gentle lamplight, thinking not of the noise that followed her wherever she went, but of the simple things she cherished. Her sons, their laughter echoing in memories that glowed like candles in her heart. Small, sunlit moments of normalcy, the scent of fresh flowers, the warmth of handwritten letters from people whose lives she had touched, the feeling of a child's hand gripping hers during a visit she would never forget. These were the pieces of life that mattered most to her, the ones she held closest when the world felt heavy. She often found solace near the water, the gentle rhythm of waves echoing something inside her, the vastness of the ocean, reminding her that no matter how loud the world became, there was always room for silence, always space for the heart to breathe. She would walk along the shore, letting the breeze move through her hair, feeling the cool sand beneath her feet. In those moments, she felt both small and infinite, both fragile and strong. The sea had a way of washing away the sharp edges of the day, leaving only the soft, meaningful things behind. During these peaceful interludes, she would think of her life not in terms of events or headlines, but in the quiet ripples she hoped she had left behind, the lives she had touched, the hearts she had helped heal, the small acts of tenderness that she hoped would continue long after she was gone. She believed deeply that love and compassion were the only forces strong enough to change the world, and she moved through each day with the intention of offering those freely, without expectation. Though the world often demanded more of her than she wished to give, She found strength in service, in the gentle impact she could make even in the smallest moments. And slowly, she rebuilt pieces of herself, rediscovering her laughter, her curiosity, her sense of wonder. She allowed herself to dream again of travel, of freedom, of a life defined not by duty but by choice. Her spirit began to brighten, like morning light returning after a long gray night. Imagine her now, sitting on the edge of a balcony at dusk, watching the last colors of the day fade into a soft, muted blue. She breathes in slowly, letting the cool night air fill her lungs, letting the weight of the day fall away. In the distance, lights flicker on one by one, turning the world into a quiet constellation of warmth. She closes her eyes and feels deeply that she is living not just for others, but for herself. For the first time in a long while, the quiet around her feels like a sanctuary, a place where her heart can rest, where she can hear her own thoughts, where she can finally breathe freely. And in that stillness, she understands something profound, something she had carried with her all along, but had never fully realized. She understands that tenderness is not weakness, that softness is a strength the world often underestimates, and that caring deeply is not a burden, but a gift. Her life, though marked by challenges, had become a testament to resilience, wrapped in gentleness, courage, wrapped in compassion. She had walked through storms and still found ways to share her light. Let that feeling settle inside you now. The warmth of her presence, the softness of her spirit, the quiet courage that guided her through so many difficult paths. Feel how her story, told gently through the softness of night, begins to merge with your own quiet breathing. Your body becomes heavier, your thoughts lighter, the world more distant. The tenderness she carried begins to wrap softly around you, encouraging you to rest, to let go, to drift deeper into the calm she believed everyone deserved. You are safe here. You are calm. And her story continues to guide you gently into deeper stillness, into softer breath, into the peaceful quiet of the night. And as the quiet hours of the night deepen around you, her presence becomes softer, like a warm light drifting through the spaces of memory. The years of her adult life unfolded in a way that felt almost dreamlike, filled with moments of overwhelming pressure and unexpected tenderness. Moments where she stood in the center of the world's attention, and others where she simply longed for a quiet place to breathe. Through all of it, she remained unmistakably human, offering kindness with a sincerity that seemed untouched by the sharpness of fame. She learned to move through palaces and crowds with the same gentle grace she once carried through quiet childhood gardens. Though the weight on her shoulders had grown infinitely heavier, her days often began before the sun had risen, with soft light creeping across polished floors and long hallways echoing faint footsteps. She would stand near windows, looking out over acres of immaculate gardens that seemed peaceful from the outside, yet felt impossibly distant from her inner world. She knew her life had become something grand, something enormous, something watched, but inside her heart, she carried a softness, a longing for simplicity, a desire to be seen not as a symbol, but as a person who felt deeply. And yet, even in the moments when she felt most alone, she found purpose in connection, listening to strangers as if their pain were her own, kneeling beside hospital beds where the air was heavy with fear, holding hands that hadn't been held in far too long. People looked at her and saw a princess, a figure surrounded by gold and ceremony. But she saw them with a clarity that made them feel seen, valued, understood. She had a rare way of leaning toward others rather than a way of opening her heart even when the world expected her to remain guarded. Her compassion became her refuge, and her refuge became her identity. Yet behind the calm, she showed the world. There were nights when she would retreat to quiet rooms where chandeliers no longer glittered and silence stretched like a blanket across the walls. She would sit alone, breathing slowly, letting the weight of expectations fall away piece by piece. In those solitary moments, she allowed herself to feel the fragility of being human, something she rarely showed. She would close her eyes, hearing distant echoes of crowds, and wonder if peace would ever truly belong to her. Still, she kept moving forward, step by step, finding soft pieces of joy where she could, in the laughter of her children, in the brief moments of escape from the spotlight, in the kindness exchanged quietly with people who had no titles, no crowns, no interest beyond simple human connection. With every sincere gesture, every gentle smile, she brought warmth into places that had forgotten how to feel warm. Imagine her now, walking through a quiet corridor, lit only by pale evening light. Her steps are slow, almost soundless on the polished floor. The world outside continues to roar with its constant noise. But here, inside this quiet stretch of her life, everything feels still. She pauses beside a window, placing her palm lightly on the cool glass. Beyond it, the gardens sway in a soft breeze. For a moment, she allows herself to breathe without the weight of millions of eyes. For a moment, she is simply Diana, not a figure, not a role, just a woman longing for peace. And as she exhales, the tension eases slightly from her shoulders. She may not have been able to control the world around her, but she learned to carry her heart gently, even when it felt bruised. She learned to let love guide her instead of expectation. And with time, she discovered her own path, a path that led away from the rigid walls of tradition and toward a life shaped by authenticity, vulnerability, and genuine care. And as the years moved quietly forward, her presence in the world became less about the headlines that once tried to cage her, and more about the warm, steady glow she left in the hearts of those she touched. Even after she stepped away from the rigid expectations that had shaped so much of her early life, she carried with her a softness that felt almost luminous. It wasn't a softness of fragility, but of compassion, an inner light that had learned to remain gentle even in the midst of storms. She walked through the world with that radiance, letting it spill gently into the lives of strangers, into the corners of hospital rooms, into the hands she held, into the eyes she met. People who saw her speak often described a strange feeling, something quiet and emotional that lingered long after she stepped away. It wasn't her title or her fame that moved them, but the way she listened, truly listened, as if the moment belonged entirely to the person in front of her, as if the noise of the world could hush itself for a breath so she could understand them fully. In that way, she became a kind of refuge for others, a calm harbor where the overlooked, from children to the sick to those pushed to the margins, felt seen, felt valued, felt human. And when she traveled, even far from home, her presence created its own kind of hush, a soft stillness that followed her like a quiet melody. Crowds would gather, not to witness spectacle, but to feel the sincerity, someone who had walked through pain and chose still to be gentle. The warmth she offered didn't shout, it whispered. It reached people not through grandeur, but through the small, tender gestures that stayed in memory long after the moment passed. The world began to understand her not as a symbol, but as a soul, one that carried both light and shadows, strength and vulnerability. Her private moments were often the ones that defined her most deeply. Late at night, when the world outside her windows grew silent and the soft blue of evening settled over her rooms, she would sit alone in the stillness, breathing slowly, letting the day fall away piece by piece. It was in these quiet hours that she allowed herself to feel everything: the weight she carried, the love she longed for, the dreams she still held softly in her heart. She would rest her hands in her lap, close her eyes, and let the silence cradle her. In those moments, away from the flash of cameras and the expectations pressed upon her, she was simply a woman searching for peace, just like anyone else. The people close to her said she had a way of talking to the night, as though she trusted its gentleness more than the noise of the day. She would walk slowly from room to room, her footsteps barely audible, pausing at windows to gaze out at the world below. The city lights looked like scattered stars, flickering softly through the darkness, and she would let the sight soothe her, reminding her that there was still beauty, still warmth, still hope. Even in the hardest seasons, she held onto that hope with quiet determination. And through it all, her boys remained the brightest part of her life, the anchor that steadied her, the love that filled her heart to its brim. She saw in them not only the future, but the possibility of a gentler world. She held them close, protecting them with a fierce tenderness that no crown, no palace, no institution could ever match. In their laughter, she found her light. In their small hands held tightly in hers, she found her courage. She dreamed of giving them a childhood warmer than her own, a life rooted in comfort and authenticity rather than expectation. And every soft moment she spent with them became a treasure, a quiet truth that grounded her, even as the world tried to pull her in every direction at once. As the world watched her evolve, through heartbreak, through reinvention, through rediscovery, they saw a woman blooming not into royalty, but into humanity. A humanity so raw, so sincere, so quietly powerful that it touched millions. Her compassion became her signature, her shield, her legacy. She gave not because she had to, but because she couldn't help it. Her empathy moved like water, gentle, persistent, able to carve meaning into the world without ever raising its voice. And now, as you rest here, listening to the soft unfolding of her story, you can feel that same gentleness settle around you. Your breath becomes slower, your body heavier, your thoughts quieter. The night wraps you in its warm embrace, the way she once wrapped others in kindness. The rhythm of the story slows even more, becoming a soft lullaby carried on a distant breeze, guiding you deeper into calm. There is no rush, no tension, no need to think or hold on to anything, just the soothing presence of a life that left the world more tender than it found it, drifting through the darkness like a soft light guiding you toward rest. And as the world grew quieter around her, Diana found herself slipping into a deeper understanding of what it meant to move through life with a heart that felt everything so intensely. Her days were often shaped by the movements of others, yet her nights belonged only to herself. In those long, tender hours, she would sit by a window, watching the soft glow of moonlight spread across the lawn, the trees swaying like gentle shadows, the air cool and still against the glass. It was in these quiet moments that she felt closest to her own truth, a truth shaped by empathy, by vulnerability, by an endless desire to care for those the world often forgot. There were nights when she would walk the long corridors of Kensington Palace barefoot, the faint echo of her steps blending with the silence. The lamps cast golden halos on the walls, and every now and then she would pause, resting a hand against a framed photograph or a piece of art, letting her breath slow until her heartbeat matched the rhythm of the night. She wasn't looking for answers. She was simply finding space to breathe, space to be herself, away from the roles, the eyes, the demands. In these moments, the world felt gentler, as if it were finally allowing her to just exist, quietly and completely. Outside, the gardens stretched into soft darkness, and she often stepped onto the terrace, letting the night air brush against her skin like a tender whisper. The sky above London rarely showed many stars, but on the nights when it did, she would tilt her head back and let the sight wrap around her. Stars had always comforted her, reminders that there were places untouched by pressure, places where everything moved freely. Sometimes she would close her eyes and imagine herself drifting among them, weightless and unburdened, guided only by the gentle pull of peace. Her thoughts would drift to her sons, the anchor of her heart. She loved them not with grandeur, but with a quiet, fierce tenderness that shaped every choice she made. She imagined their futures, not as royalty, but as men who would walk through the world with compassion, humility, and open hearts. She wanted them to know kindness, not expectation. She wanted them to understand that strength was not in stoicism, but in softness, in caring deeply, in standing up for those who had no voice. She wanted them to be free. In these quiet reflections, the weight of her own struggles softened. She had lived years under a spotlight that often burned too harshly, yet she had carried herself with a grace that came not from perfection, but from resilience, from choosing again and again to show her heart, even when the world made it difficult. Each night, as she wrapped her arms around herself and breathed slowly, she let a little more of that weight dissolve into the darkness around her. The night, patient and generous, always received it. There were places she visited in her mind that brought her peace. Warm beaches along the Mediterranean, where waves whispered against the shore. Quiet hospital rooms where she had held hands with patients who simply needed presence. Children laughing in orphanages she visited, their small fingers reaching for hers, as if instinctively knowing she was safe. These memories drifted through her like soft threads, weaving comfort gently through her thoughts. They reminded her that love, even in the smallest acts, was the greatest thing she had ever given and received. As the hours stretched toward sunrise, she would sometimes curl beneath a blanket, letting the softness envelop her completely. Her breathing slowed, her muscles loosened, and her thoughts drifted farther from clarity, becoming more like shapes moving through warm light. She would imagine herself walking through a quiet field at dawn, dew on the grass, the horizon blooming with pale blue and pink. A new day, a new beginning, a moment untouched by expectations, shaped only by the gentle rhythm of her footsteps. And in that imagined landscape, she felt free, free from the noise of the world, free from the weight of a crown she never asked for, free from the misunderstandings that followed her, free to simply be Diana, a woman who loved deeply, who cared fiercely, who gave more of her heart than she ever kept for herself. The night wrapped around her like a soft embrace, and she let herself drift, knowing that even in her most fragile moments, she carried a strength woven from kindness, a strength not loud or forceful, but quiet, steady, luminous, the kind of strength that never leaves the world, even long after the person who held it is gone. And now, as the night stretches even deeper around you, her presence softens into something almost ethereal, drifting like candlelight in a quiet room, a gentle glow that never really disappears. And the memory of her kindness seems to move across the world the same way the moonlight moves across the ocean. Slow, steady, tender, touching lives she never met, comforting hearts she never saw, offering warmth to people who whisper her name, long after she has stepped into the peaceful silence beyond this world. You can imagine her walking now through a quiet garden at dusk, the air cool and still, the sky melting into soft shades of lavender and silver, her footsteps light against the earth, her heart calm, her thoughts drifting like petals carried by a warm breeze. And even in this imagined moment, there is a sense of serenity around her, as though peace finally found her after all she had endured, as though the universe itself wanted to place gentle hands around her shoulders and tell her she could finally rest. Her legacy in the years after her passing grew not louder but softer, more intimate, more deeply woven into the quiet corners of human life. Mothers teaching daughters about compassion, strangers offering kindness because they remembered her smile, people lighting candles in small windows during difficult nights. Her memory becoming a quiet guide for those who believe in gentleness, even when the world feels sharp. She became a symbol not of tragedy, but of tenderness, of courage wrapped in vulnerability, of a heart that refused to harden even when pushed into the cold. Her influence rippled outward, touching hospitals, charities, quiet rooms where someone struggled with despair. A reminder that kindness is not weakness, that love can be a form of strength stronger than any crown. And as you lie here, breathing slowly, your chest rising and falling in soft waves, you can feel the calm beauty of her story settling around you, like the hush of evening settling over a sleeping city. The warmth of her memory blends with the warmth of your own breath, and her presence becomes something protective, not distant, not royal, not unreachable, but close, like a comforting hand resting gently against your shoulder. Her life, filled with love and pain and resilience, now becomes a soft lullaby that drifts across your thoughts, dissolving tension from your muscles, quieting the world inside your mind, guiding you deeper into stillness. You can imagine her now standing beside a window in a quiet home, looking out at the night sky, the stars glowing softly above her, the world silent beneath her feet, her expression peaceful, as though she finally found a place where nothing was expected of her, nothing demanded, nothing weighed heavy. In this imagined night, Her breath is calm, her heart unburdened, her spirit free to move like a silent ribbon of light drifting into the darkness. She does not speak, but her presence whispers something gentle, something like, "You deserve rest, you deserve peace, you are safe now." And those words drift into you, settling deep, comforting the most tired parts of your mind. Your breath deepens, your body loosens, your thoughts fade like distant footprints, washed away by a soft tide. You are drifting with her now, not toward sorrow, but toward peace, toward a place where every burden you carried during the day can finally dissolve, where every tightness in your chest can open, where every worry can soften into distant echoes that no longer reach you. The story becomes a blanket of calm, a warm presence wrapping around you with the same tenderness she offered to the world, guiding you gently toward the deepest layers of sleep. Let yourself drift further now. Let the night hold you the way her kindness once held millions. Let your breath guide you into a softness thick as velvet. Nothing is required of you now. Nothing is pulling you back. The world can wait. You can rest. You are safe, wrapped in the quiet glow of her memory. You are drifting, slowly, peacefully. You are falling into sleep, the same way moonlight falls onto a still lake. Soft, quiet, beautiful. And now, as the quiet settles deeper into the night, her story softens into something almost luminous, like a gentle light resting on the surface of calm water. Her presence, even long after she stepped out of the world in the way people once knew her, continued to drift through the hearts of those who loved her, not as a public figure anymore, not as a symbol or a title, but as a warm echo of kindness that lingered softly in the quiet corners of memory. In households across the world, people still whispered her name with tenderness, remembering the way she listened to others, the way she held someone's hand with sincerity, the way her eyes carried both light and vulnerability. She had been more than the photographs in newspapers, more than the headlines that never seemed to rest. She had been human, deeply human, someone who felt the world intensely and loved it fiercely, and that humanity, more than anything else, continued to glow long after her footsteps had faded. Imagine her now in a softer space, far from the noise of cameras and expectations, a peaceful room filled with gentle afternoon light. She sits by a window with sheer curtains, the fabric moving slightly with the breeze. Outside, the world is quiet, a garden stretching beneath the window, leaves stirring gently, flowers bowing their heads under the golden sun. She rests her hands on her lap, her posture relaxed, as though the weight she once carried has finally dissolved into the air around her. There is a softness in her expression, something serene, reflective. She watches the light move across the floor, shifting slowly, calmly. She no longer needs to perform, to protect herself, to navigate the pressures of a world that demanded so much of her. Here, she is simply Diana, gentle, thoughtful, carrying a heart that always tried to give more than it received. People whom she met briefly, sometimes only once, held onto the memory of her touch, her voice, her warmth. Nurses remembered how she held the hands of the sick without hesitation. Children remembered her laughter, bright and sincere. Strangers remembered the way she looked directly at them, as though they mattered, as though they were seen. And in that simple recognition, she changed lives in ways she never fully knew. Her story became a reminder to the world that compassion is not weakness, it is strength. That gentleness is not fragility, it is power. That love, when given freely, becomes something timeless, surviving far beyond the boundaries of a life. And so, even now, her memory moves like a quiet breeze through generations, carrying the soft message she lived by, that kindness matters, that hearts matter, that people matter. You can feel that same message settling over you now, softly, slowly, like warm light touching your skin. Her story is no longer about events or dates. It's about the feeling she left behind, a feeling that wraps around you as you breathe deeper, as your muscles loosen, as the night becomes warmer and more inviting. The world grows distant, blurred into gentle shapes. Her memory becomes a soft hand resting near yours, not to pull you forward or hold you back, but simply to sit with you in this moment of calm. Your breath slows, your body grows heavier, your thoughts drift like feathers in warm air. There is nothing left to understand, nothing left to follow, nothing left to chase. Her presence is a glow, a calm, a quiet reassurance, whispering that it's safe to rest, that the night will hold you softly, that peace is already inside you, waiting to rise. Let yourself sink deeper into that peace now. Let the story dissolve into warmth. Let the night wrap around you like soft fabric. You are safe, you are calm, you are drifting slowly, beautifully, into deep, gentle sleep.